Welcome back to Talking Fitchburg. It's now time for your council recap. Chad Brecklin's back and ready to give you an update. We'll kick it right off here. Mayoral proclamation recognizing Agricultural Day in Fitchburg.
Yeah, so there's a proclamation read that indicated yesterday, or March 24th, the Common Council meeting. At that meeting, that day in particular was declared or proclaimed to be Agricultural Day in Fitchburg. We had a couple members of our Ag and Rural Affairs Committee there who are also multiple generation landowners and farmers here in the city of Fitchburg. And we are very unique in a city in that we have such an extensive area of agricultural-based uses, crops, cattle, orchard, landscape, or markets, if you will, as far as landscape supply and those sorts of things. So we're just so unique. It's great that the Common Council and the mayor continues to recognize our agricultural history and allows us to continue to blend urban, suburban, and rural in one city.
It is always amazing. Like if you just drive down Fish Hatchery Road from this dense city area, then you can go 10 minutes and you're like, where am I? Like you don't believe you're in Fitchburg still, but you look out there and you just appreciate what's happening out there. So yay for agriculture. Fitchburg Fire Department also had a couple of promotions that they shared at the meeting.
Yeah, Lieutenant Sutter was promoted to Battalion Chief. Firefighter Brueggemann was promoted to lieutenant, and a part-time or paid-on-call firefighter Lynch was promoted to full-time firefighter. They were all able to stop by the Common Council meeting and have a photo with the council and be recognized for their promotions.
All right.
Congratulations to all three of them.
Absolutely. We love checking in with the fire department. All right, let's move into the agenda. We start with the Plan Commission, a resolution granting exception to allow community-based residential facility property here in a lot in Fitchburg.
Yeah, so state statute actually has limitations on the amount of this type of housing that can be provided in any one aldermanic district within a municipality. We have done this on a number of occasions for projects that allow for this residential housing for our senior population. And this particular project that this is referring to is a project by Trilogy that's going to be in the 2900 block of County Highway MM. Just to the south of McCoy Road.
All right. Next one is a resolution approving preliminary plat. This is going to be for the Nine Springs Hill Incorporated.
So this is the exact same area that we were talking about where the senior residential living facility will go. They are also looking to do other development there. I think there's 2 or 3 multifamily mixed-use buildings. There's roughly 30 townhomes and about 40 residential single-family lots that will all be available as this project moves forward. So what Council acted on last evening is the preliminary plat, which is one of the first steps in moving a development project forward.
Then we have our next one is a resolution approving a final plat request here for Green Tech Land Company, LLC.
Yeah, so as it indicates, this is the final plat. So this fully creates what the lots look like in this particular development here. And this one, if I recall correctly, is in Uptown, and it's the Avante property north of the Arlo in that particular area where this will now be platted. Their plan is to put a couple of roads in, and then they have some buildable lots for additional housing.
All right. Next one is approving a final plot request here for the agent No Oaks Ranch, LLC. We've heard of this one.
Yeah, lots of plats this meeting. So similar to the one we just talked about, in so much as that this is final plat. This creates 3 buildable lots in this neighborhood, which is on the north side of Lacey Road and Central Park Place. and the Common Council approved that plat that creates those first 3 buildable lots there.
All right, on to Board of Public Works. They have a resolution approving of purchase of salt for the 2026-2027 season.
Yeah, so we always partner with the state of Wisconsin. They bid out the salt purchasing and allow municipalities to participate in that. So we budget about $77,000, I think, this year for our salt purchases, and our Public Works Department, after this was approved last evening, will go ahead and purchase that salt based upon the salt contract price that the state of Wisconsin obtains. So obviously there's a significantly more buying power by us participating with the state contract and other municipalities than us going out on our own and trying to get pricing.
I was going to say, better pricing, right? That's the bottom line there.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, next one we have a resolution of approving of a holding tank permit on South Saline Road.
Yes, so city ordinance has the ability for folks who have property that exists before certain dates. I think it's 1980. It allows them, if they can't put in or repair a septic system that they're on, to get a holding tank permit. So this particular property is in a situation that does conform with city ordinance and does allow for a holding tank to be, a permit to be granted. So the Common Council did approve that last night.
I always think, again, we have this real rural area, and, it just, it can happen.
Right.
Another one here, approving an award or resolution approving an award for police services facility audio video work. You think I would be able to say that?
You would think that would roll right off your tongue, but
well, no, it doesn't. No.
Yeah.
AV work.
There you go. So the police services facility is under construction, as you and your viewers may be aware. And one of the things that we need to put into this building is some audio-video equipment, and we bid that separately from the construction side of the project. This was actually bid once. We had one bidder, and it was notably over budget. So we did work with that bidder, identified a scope revision, as well as were able to utilize some contract pricing that they have, I believe, with the UW system. And that ultimately reduced the cost by about $100,000.
All right, we move on to approving an agreement for professional services in design and construction for administration of the Fitchburg City Hall and Community Center renovation project.
Yeah, as was identified in a 2014 space needs study between the police department and City Hall, once the police department vacates the space here in City Hall, the existing departments that will be remaining in City Hall will be able to move into that space, and then it's anticipated that, for the next 20 years, give or take, we should have adequate space needs within City Hall for the anticipated growth in City Hall-based staff. So this project here has begun with some conceptual designs on how the 4 floors within City Hall will be remodeled and updated. And then there's also some work that will happen in the community center as a result of this project as well. So we simply have here an agreement for the design of the actual project to include the construction documents needed for bidding this project. That's what this contract is for, and it was approved by the Common Council.
All right, we have a resolution here approving an agreement for subdivision improvements of the plot 5th edition of Terra Vesa.
Yeah, so this is a standard subdivision improvement agreement that we have with developers. It outlines their responsibilities as it relates to generally public improvements, streets, utilities, those sorts of things within their developments.
All right, and finally, a resolution approving agreement for water services between the Village of Oregon and the City of Fitchburg and the State of Wisconsin Department of Corrections.
Yeah, so there's an agreement. This ultimately was postponed at the request of the Village of Oregon, while there's some continued conversation between the Village and the Wisconsin Department of Corrections. This relates to the Department of Corrections' proposed juvenile facility in southeast Fitchburg. It would rely on, based upon preference and request by the Department of Corrections, for water and sewer service from the Village of Oregon.
All right, well, stay tuned for that. And then we have under Finance Committee, we have a resolution amending the 2026 budget for various funds for 2025 carryovers.
Yeah, this is an annual thing that we do each year. The city has some guidelines in place to determine what, if anything, is available for carryover from one budget year into the next. And generally speaking, there are a number of projects and or other situations that do lead to carryovers. And this year was no different. The vast majority of the carryovers this year are project related. So the staff may not have had the time or capacity to get to that project. Maybe it got delayed due to weather or contractor availability, or we're still waiting for invoices to come in. There's several different reasons as to why that may be. But departments request the carryovers. Our finance department reviews whether or not those requests are in line with our guidelines, and those that are move on to Common Council for approval.
All right. Next committee of the whole meeting is March 25th of 2026, and the next Common Council meeting will be on April 14th. Appreciate the time as always, Chad.
Thank you.